Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Final Score. We got a good episode for you. We're going to be talking about the NFL offseason, some franchise tags, and some other stuff too regarding the NFL.
So we're going to be starting off with the franchise tags. There were some good notable players mentioned, but we're going to try to get through all of them, starting with the Saints with Marcus Williams. They had a couple players that they could have used this tag on, like most teams, but they opted to use it on Marcus Williams, who had a 78.6 PFF grade last year. So what's your initial reaction to this franchise tag?
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. I think that they might be a little on the down this year just because either if they keep Breeze or whatever they're going to do for the QB spot.
And
but I do think it was a good signing. I think it was definitely worth it.
It helps keep them, especially if, for their defense. He's a great player for them. And they haven't really done a ton this offseason, but I know that they recently let Emmanuel Sanders go, so they reduced their wide receiver depth a little bit. And then moving on to another defensive player, staying with the safeties, Justin Simmons. That's the second year in a row he's been tagged. Players tend to get frustrated after they get tagged in repeated years. Do you think that's going to be a similar situation with Simmons, or how do you see that playing out?
I don't know. I mean, I would definitely understand if he got angry. He's on the Broncos.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it was a good move for the Broncos, but I could see him potentially getting upset with them for sure.
Absolutely. So, we're just going to keep going through the players, some bigger players and some not as big players. We have the Panthers with an offensive tackle, Taylor Moton. I don't really think much, when it comes to just, I don't even know if he's an offensive tackle, to be honest with you. But like I said, there's just a couple players, just like the Washington football team, they used it on another O-lineman. They used it on Brandon Scherf. So these are good moves. It just helps protect the side that need to be protected. Nothing crazy, though, to talk about.
Yeah, moving on to the Jets, they got Marcus May.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was really good. I think they should have tried to work on a deal, but it was expected that they were going to do so I'm not really shocked.
And now a huge move.
Yes.
The Giants tagged Leonard Williams, who was very good last year, and I love that play. I think I was worried that we were going to let him walk, but...
Agreed. I thought there was a couple different options. It's really intriguing as a Giants fan looking into the offseason. We could have let Leonard walk and re-signed Dalvin for cheaper and then go after wide receiver in free agency. But we've seen, players who have reworked contracts, a lot of wide receivers, so that leaves the wide receiver market right now down to Kenny Gallaudet. So with the re-signing of Leonard Williams, I don't see them spending that money. I've actually heard some rumors that we want Bud Dupree, and that our main goal is to get an edge in free agency. So personally, I think the Giants, after that franchise tag, which is pivotal because he was so great last year, and I hope they can work out a deal. I expect the Giants to draft, if he's available, Kyle Pitts. I don't believe he will be. I'm going to say we get Jaylen Waddle as wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously definitely need an edge rusher, so I definitely like the play of drafting a wide receiver and going after an edge rusher. But I was kind of hoping we would get a wide receiver just because, the class was Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, but they both got tagged. So, yeah, I like this move a lot, and I'm hoping that we can get Bud Dupree.
Absolutely. Giants achieved pretty much, I think, where most people thought they would from the start of the year. But after Saquon fell, I think there was a lot of expectations that were tempered. So I definitely expect the Giants next year, we talk about implications with these franchise tags. So now you have one of your biggest guys out there on defense with Leonard Williams. You have James Bradbury. They're going to be bringing in guys through the draft. They're going to be bringing in a big guy, I believe, in free agency, like a Bud Dupree. So I think the Giants next year, with a fully healthy offense, if Danny can get his guy that he feels comfortable throwing the ball to, and he's got Saquon in the checkdowns now that he's healthy, I fully expect this Giants team to be very competitive, led by well-coached Joe Judge.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even though, like I said before, I was really hoping that we would go after a wide receiver, I think that they can make this a very successful offseason. And I think that they've started off pretty good with that, and especially if we continue with signing Bud Dupree, I think that it'll set up perfectly for next year.
And they've been clearing cap space like crazy, so they want to make a move. They cut Golden Tate. They cut Kevin Zeitler. They're restructuring Nate Solder's contract, which is actually going to help them with the cap space. So Giants are really trying to make that push, and Gettleman knows that this is his couple years, maybe fourth or third year now. And Gettleman said, give me 3 years. So we're looking at that now. He made some great hires. I'm a little concerned with Jason Garrett's offense, but then again, that's the same playbook that these guys now get to play for the second year in a row.
For Danny's first time, too.
Yeah, Danny's had a rough career, but he has not been put in a position to win because he has not had a number one wide receiver. All of last season, he had Saquon injured. So it's been a tough career for him so far. He's definitely shown signs of brightness.
So they got a bright future ahead of him.
Absolutely.
So the Super Bowl champs made a franchise tag on Godwin, and I think that was a good play.
I was a little surprised.
I was too. I honestly thought that he was gonna walk.
I thought they would have given it to Shaq Barrett, who I believe,
agree.
Because they re-signed Devonta David and they let Shaq Barrett either they can work out a deal with him in free agency, or he can find a place to go elsewhere.
Right.
But speaking with Chris Godwin, with the implications of that, a lot of people were speculating Odell possibly leaving Cleveland this offseason and going to Tampa to join Tom Brady, because those are two guys that have always wanted to play together. And those expectations obviously have dropped a lot, with this signing. So with Odell, do you see him staying in Cleveland, or do you see him going somewhere else?
I want to say I see him going somewhere else just because I don't think he's the best fit for Cleveland. But I don't really see... I can't right now picture Odell anywhere else. I don't know if any teams will just really want him bad enough. I think maybe if Deshaun got moved, then maybe whoever he goes, they would make a play for him. But if I had to guess, he's going to stay in Cleveland for now.
Some teams that I would like to see make a move for him, personally, the Patriots. I would love to see Cam get a guy to throw to. I despise the Patriots as a Giants fan, but I am a fan of Cam.
Yeah, I agree.
So I want to see him succeed. The Ravens, a team that I predicted was going to get Godwin. That was my prediction for them. Obviously, Godwin was franchise tagged, so they need to make a play. And, as a Lamar supporter, for me personally, if he doesn't have wide receiver, I'm always going to mention that. Because how are you supposed to get to that next level if you don't have your guy?
Yeah.
All the great quarterbacks have their guy.
I do agree with that. As a Lamar hater, I think that he needs it pretty soon because right now he can't. He's struggling passing the ball. So I do think that would be a great fit for them because he just needs a talented receiver. No disrespect to...
the Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
It's just like Russ has his DK, Mahomes has got his Hill, Brady's got his weapons in Tampa. So everyone has their guy, and no disrespect, Mark Andrews is a good player.
Brady didn't have too much in New England. That's the only person that...
A little bit different, though, with Brady.
Yeah.
But I know, we talk about great quarterbacks make their players great. Unfortunately, though, I think there's been a couple instances, like with Carson Wentz. I'm interested to see how he does because, we're kind of going off on a little tangent here, but he clearly had receivers who were consistently dropping the ball.
Right.
Lamar just doesn't have his guys. So
right, yep.
If we want to stay with wide receiver talk, we can also talk about the Bears signing Allen Robinson to that franchise tag. What's your reaction to this?
It's a great move. It's a disappointing move. It's a disappointing move as a Giants fan, because I was really hoping that would be such an amazing signing. But now I'm interested to see if the Bears are going to go and get Allen Robinson. Are they going to put a quarterback to support him? Because right now, that is not going to do much with Trubisky.
Trubisky, I don't believe, is going to be the quarterback we saw. I'm going to say the Bears, in reports, are aggressively pursuing a trade for a quarterback. And the top two at the market is Deshaun Watson, who the Texans head coach Dave Coley, I might have misspoke there, but Dave Coley recently came out and was a little bit different than his previous statements because he talked about Deshaun and kind of said, we'll see what happens, but right now Deshaun is our quarterback. Whereas before, he's like, Deshaun is our quarterback, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I definitely think he's going to get moved. Man, the Bears are going to have to make a really good push. Another person that they could potentially get and this was on this person's radar too, was Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And he was on the radar. He said if he's going to be traded, one of the teams he mentioned was the Bears. So that would be another great move for Chicago, and that would make the Allen Robinson even more of a good signing if they can get a quarterback behind him. So
absolutely. Yeah. Do you see Russell Wilson leaving Seattle?
I don't think that. I don't know. Just because he didn't straight up ask, he just said if there were teams he would. He just told the team. So I don't think he's gonna get moved. I think the biggest quarterback that will be moved is Deshaun. But that's just me.
So you do think Deshaun's gonna be moved this offseason?
I do. It might be tough and it might not be right at the start of the season, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Absolutely. So another player who we didn't mention so far was the Jaguars putting that tag on Cam Robinson. This isn't a huge move, but I actually really like it because obviously they're going to be having Trevor Lawrence at the helm. So you need to do everything possible to protect him. All their money this offseason should be into the offensive line because I think in his first year he can work with DJ Shark. Laviska Shenault had a really good campaign last year. So I personally love this move for the Jaguars. They just need to bolster that lineup, give him some guys to throw to, and give him some time.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Jaguars could be making some plays, but yeah, good signing for them. Or a good tag for them.
So now let's talk about some players who did not get that franchise tag and who are going to be working on some deals in free agency, starting with Kenny Gallaudet. He's pretty much the entire wide receiver market right now. I believe Curtis Samuel's out there too, but where do you see Gallaudet ending up?
I'd like to say Giants, potentially. But I don't know. I think that it's tough to predict a guy like him on where he's going to go. So I'd say maybe you could see him in New York, but I also think that you could see him re-signing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to leave Detroit, if I'm going to be completely honest. There's a good amount of teams that could use wide receiver. But a lot of the times, if it's not a quarterback or if it's not a huge defensive player, people are hesitant to give money to wide receivers. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of places he could go. I just don't see him ending up in Detroit. I'd love to see the Dolphins make a play for him. I think that would be a great signing for them. Whether they do have Tua, whether it's Deshaun. I'd love to see the Patriots go after him. Just the Jets, all these teams, with quarterbacks who need help. That's where I like to see Gallaudet end up.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of options for him. So I do think that there's it would be cool to see him go somewhere like that. Yeah, I agree.
And another guy that I know you really like and was not tagged is Shaq Barrett. What do you think happened there? Why he was not received a tag, or why it doesn't seem that the deal is going to happen? And do you see him going somewhere else, and if so, where?
I think he's probably just going to re-sign. I don't know why they didn't give him the tag, but I think he's going to re-sign personally.
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to play in Tampa Bay. What it's going to come down to is money. So Shaq Barrett is going to get money if he leaves somewhere else, but I don't think he's going to be getting this much money, especially after the franchise tag for Chris Godwin, after the reworking of Devonta David, and Tom Brady getting another extension.
Right, yeah.
So I believe, I could be wrong here, but I don't believe Yannick Ngakoue got the tag either. And a place I would really love to see him end up is in Buffalo. There's an article that came out about some players who the Bills could be targeting, and he was among them. And I don't see him re-signing with the Ravens. I think he could work his way over there.
Yeah, that would be a really good move. Yeah, I think that would be a really good move.
Another guy who I didn't really notice until now hasn't been reworked on a deal yet is Chris Carson. And I think the Seahawks would be a pretty big mistake to let Carson walk.
I agree. Yeah, I think that they're going to have to make a move pretty soon because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go after him. So I think that the Seahawks need to make a play, and I don't know if they will.
In the offense, without Chris Carson, when they were on the field, I think they had a losing record without Chris Carson. I could be totally left on that, but that was my expectation. I thought that Chris Carson was a huge impact on this team. So that's another guy who a team like the Bills who need a running back. Running backs are only so valuable, but I think he'd actually be a pretty good fit for them too, or
I agree.
obviously to stay in Seattle. And the pass catcher that we haven't really mentioned yet, we got a couple of tight ends who haven't been signed yet, and one of them being Hunter Henry, who I think the consensus is right now is that he's not going to be staying in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Is there any team that jumps off the chart to you that you could see pick him up?
I don't know. There's a lot of teams that I don't know, to be honest. I think that there are a few options. I think that maybe a contender. I don't really know. I think
him and Jonnu Smith as well did not get the tag, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see where these guys end up. Well, I guess we're going to be joined now by Dylan halfway through the podcast, so we've pretty much just covered players who have been tagged and players who did not receive the franchise tag. Is there any guys that jumped off to you, whether they were signed or they weren't signed?
Didn't Chris Godwin not get signed? Did you?
No, he did get tags.
Oh, he did get tagged.
Shaq Barrett did not get tagged.
So are there any big-name wide receivers that did not get tagged?
Kenny Gallaudet.
Yeah, Kenny Gallaudet is the only one. He's pretty much the entire wide receiver.
I remember he was on the block last year.
Giants were interested in potentially trading for him, but it looks like Giants' main focus is going to be to get that edge rusher like me and Jayden were talking about earlier. So it's been a pretty wild offseason
So is
so
this
far.
podcast more about the Giants, or are we talking more about?
We've just covered so far the franchise tags. And
I'd say more for the Giants in particular here. I don't know if I'd want to go after Kenny Gallaudet because I'd definitely be more interested in Devonta Smith.
So you want Devonta Smith? That's who you think
Or
Giants should
Waddle.
take? I think they're going to
yeah.
end up taking Waddle. I think Devonta Smith is not. We're going to kind of transition here a little bit into the draft, talking about some big players. Devonta Smith might be the best talent right there with Pitts, but I don't think he's the best wide receiver in this class.
I can see that, but I don't know. I really do like Devonta Smith. I think the Giants' best approach would be to hope to get Shaq Barrett, and then
I think they're going to get Bud Dupree. That's someone who they've had their eyes on.
Mhm.
But speaking of the draft, why don't we transition a little bit over to that and talk about some of the top players? We already talked a little bit about Waddle and Smith. What do you guys think about Kyle Pitts? Because they are hyping this guy up to be the next Travis Kelce, where you don't need a star wide receiver on your team if you got this guy.
I don't think we're really to Giants because we already have Evan Ingram.
Well, Giants, if he's at the board at 11, the Giants will be selecting Pitts. I'm 99% sure of that. Do you guys think he's going to be that much of a talent?
Yeah, I think he might be a little bit overhyped, but I do think that he's going to be a great pick, and if he falls to the Giants, then it's a steal and a half.
A lot of people have been talking about him potentially landing in the NFC East, even if it's not the Giants. The Eagles are interested because
Does that mean we trade Ingram, you think, in that scenario?
some people are saying we could run a double tight end, which I think would be a big mistake. I'd like to see us take Pitts, trade Ingram for a third maybe, try to package a couple of picks for a second, and then take a wide receiver there. That's what I'd personally like to see.
Yeah,
as long as Danny gets this guy.
Yeah, Danny needs this guy, and it doesn't look like we're going after one in free agency, so the draft might be the best option.
How do you guys feel about the quarterbacks in this class? Like some of the main guys, Lawrence,
Obviously, Trevor
Wilson,
Lawrence.
Fields, Mack.
I don't know why Justin Fields is being so undervalued. He's slipped
I
out
agree.
of the top 10.
I think a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks, there's a stigma around them.
Agreed. I mean, for good reason, too, with Dwayne Haskins. But because Dwayne Haskins, watching him in college, you would have thought he would have been a great NFL player, broke Drew Brees' record. But I don't really get it with Justin Fields. I think he's a different type of player. He's more of an athlete than Dwayne Haskins was. So I really don't understand why this guy's sliding. I think I'd like to see the Panthers take him from me
I agree.
personally.
Yeah.
A guy right now that is projected to go second overall, out of nowhere pretty much, he's been rising up the charts in the past 2 weeks, is Zach Wilson.
I'm trying to think. That does happen a lot in the NFL where there's a late rising quarterback. I feel like the most notable last guy I can remember is
Baker.
Daniel Jones. Well,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Danny did come out of nowhere.
I don't think he's anything special. But
If I'm the Jets, personally, and I'm not getting Trevor Lawrence, I'm either trading back for Justin Fields or I'm keeping Darnold. I'm bolstering my offensive line to protect him. Because I've said this multiple times on this podcast, and I always believe it. There's not been a quarterback set up for failure and put in a worse position than Sam Darnold.
I think as far as the Jets situation goes, if you're not drafting Trevor Lawrence, I think it's nonsensical to draft another quarterback because Trevor Lawrence is an exception because he's a potentially generational talent. But to draft anybody else, you're just in the same situation you now are. Darnold was a highly touted pick coming out of college.
Yeah, he didn't have to work under Adam Gase though. That's one thing. Well, he won't have to.
What the Jets should do, I think one plausible option for them would be to trade back to the 5 around there and take that offensive tackle Sewell. Don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, out of Oregon. Because if you can have a left tackle, that's the most important position on that line.
Yeah.
Some other big guys. The guy who's actually going first off the board in a lot of mock drafts is Jamar Chase, the first wide off the board. In this mock draft from CBS, he's projected to go with the 4th to the Falcons. I'm curious with your guys' rankings. How would you rank out of Chase, Smith, and Waddle? And I'm probably leaving a guy out. Out of those 3, how do you rank them?
I personally go Smith, Waddle, Chase.
Really? So
you have Chase last?
I love Devonta Smith.
I'm a little worried about Waddle because I think he's a speed guy. And it's not often, you have your Tyreek Hill, but then you have your John Ross, your Henry Ruggs, all those guys.
Yeah,
for me, I'm probably gonna say Smith, Chase, Waddle. That's me.
I think for the Giants, Waddle would be being biased here, Waddle would be probably the worst fit for the Giants.
Who is a very likely a chance that we get him. I'm probably going to agree with Jayden. I'm probably going to say Smith, Chase, Waddle. Smith is no doubt the best talent, but talent isn't always what comes into the league. Adam Thielen, undrafted, had to pay for his tryouts and everything, and he's not the most talented wide receiver, but he's one of the best.
Victor Cruz undrafted.
Yeah. So, looking at some other picks, with the quarterbacks, Trey Lance is a guy that has been getting comparisons to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Is Trey Lance a guy that jumps off the board for you guys, or do you kind of just view him as a guy who kind of slides down there and gets taken in late first round, early second?
I think that's what's going to happen personally. I don't think that he's going to jump off the board like some people think. I think he might fall.
It just sounds like a Drew Lock type player to me.
I personally think we are going to see 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10. I think it's going to be...
Do you think 4?
I think potentially 4, top 15.
Well, because we know Trevor Lawrence is an automatic one, right?
And I'm going to say that the Jets make an interesting play and they take Zach Wilson at the 2. And then you look at other teams. I don't agree with this. Some people are saying the Eagles would take a quarterback.
The Eagles are...
Not after they have Nate Sudfeld.
The Eagles are a dumpster fire, but I think it would be a... I don't think Jalen Hurts is a franchise guy. And I think that's what it comes down to. If the Eagles truly believe that Justin Fields was a franchise guy, they take him. Because personally, I don't think Jalen Hurts is a franchise guy. I think he's a solid quarterback. And he'd be a high-end back. Kind of like an Andy Dalton level.
That's not who you want.
No. I think if they take Justin
that
Fields,
might be a
I'd
little bit
understand the
disrespectful.
logic.
I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is going to be a franchise guy. I don't think he's... I wouldn't compare him to Andy Dalton. I mean,
I just meant for caliber. I don't mean play style at all.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton did have some great years. The Bengals
led him to the playoffs a couple times. I don't even mean that as an insult. I just feel like if you're looking at top quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts would land in the 32 to 25 range.
I'm gonna make my predictions here because they're talking about this personal draft has 4 people going in the top 10 as far as quarterbacks go. I'm going to say Lawrence, obviously, with the 1. I'm going to say Zach Wilson does go to the Jets with the 2nd pick. And I'm going to say Trey Lance ends up in Carolina with that 8th. So the swing there is Justin Fields, if he could go to Philly.
Man, that's insane how...
The Broncos should definitely take a quarterback.
Yeah, it's insane to me that...
I think Fields is going to go to the Broncos. I'm going to make that.
I think Elway stepped down from doing general manager.
Yeah, he should.
Made some terrible quarterback decisions.
Yeah. That's insane to me that Fields was pretty much number 2.
It was 1 and 2, yeah.
And then I don't know what happened.
There was people I was watching, ESPN before earlier this year, and people were saying they would even put Fields over Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So now you have this guy. Not only is he not going to be a top 3 pick, people don't have him as a top 3 quarterback.
Right.
So it's just crazy. As the draft comes, people will rise up in the rankings. Josh Allen is one guy who people had him going number 1 at one point. Obviously, he fell with Buffalo, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the draft. It's been a pretty interesting offseason so far, so we're just going to have to wait to see what happens. Is there anything else you guys wanted to cover?
I don't think so.
No, I think that pretty much about sums it. I think. Did you guys talk about like Mark Ingram? Like that's it.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Mark Ingram. The Texans' big move.
Yeah, I think the Texans just an absolute dumpster fire.
Well, that's how they're gonna keep. That's how they're gonna keep Deshaun.
Give Mark Ingram. It's ridiculous. They're a mockery of a franchise. I mean, Dave Coley, their head coach, when he signed there, this is after Deshaun openly requested a trade in public, and Dave Coley says, "I'm here because I know Deshaun Watson is going to be here."
Yeah, but then again, what are you supposed to say?
If someone asks you, do you expect Deshaun Watson to stay here? And you're just going to be like, he's our quarterback right now, and we're just going to have to see how it plays out. And that's what he had to recently say because Deshaun probably went up to the management and was like, I'm not playing here.
The Texans have done everything wrong.
It's pretty embarrassing because they
Texans,
don't...
if you would like to hop on the podcast.
They don't even hire Eric Bieniemy. I mean, I know no one did, but especially the Texans.
Also, considering the short history, I think their best player in franchise history just left, and it wasn't even special. Like, he kind of just left. Like, there was nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But they grant J.J. Watt's wish. They just let him get out of there, and Deshaun's just sitting there, and I could see a chance that he, unfortunately, sits out next year.
I don't think so. That'd be too much of a thing. That'd just be ridiculous.
He's not playing.
No, I think he'd
For
sit
Houston.
out, but I think for Houston to not trade him is...
I don't know why he's not traded right now.
Nonsensical, yeah.
Like I said, that should just about wrap it up. We're going to be talking about the NBA on our upcoming podcast, and if any other news happen around the sports world, we'll be sure to get into it. But for now, this has been
The Final Score.